Today on LetThemTalkTV, we're looking at the indigenous languages of the UK. When you think of the languages of England and the United Kingdom, you're probably thinking of English. But as you crisscross this country, you'll find other native languages, some very small, some not so small. How many others are there? Probably more than you think, as I'll show you in this video. Of course, I'm speaking here of indigenous languages. Well, by that I mean ones that have been around for at least 1,000 years or so, because even English itself was brought over by Anglo-Saxon tribes sometime in the 5th century AD. The Celtic languages are much older, but they too arrived by migration from the continent possibly around 1000 BC. Other peoples inhabited Britain before them. Stonehenge, for example, was built by a different set of people who had reached Britain from Anatolia in modern-day Turkey over the course of many centuries and had olive-coloured skin. They might have spoken a language similar to Basque, but this is just speculation. I speak more about this in my video on the Celtic influence on English. Check it out up here. However, at the end of this video, I will briefly mention recent immigration and the top 5 immigrant languages spoken in the UK today, with some surprising stats, so do stay for that. Let's start with a handy map. This is the United Kingdom, comprising Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Also included are the Channel Islands and the Isle of Man, not strictly in the United Kingdom. I'm going to take you through the languages of the country. Now, there is some debate as to what constitutes a language and what is a dialect, and certainly there are grey areas. There are no standard criteria for distinguishing languages from dialects. A witty distinction is that a language is a dialect with an army. Anyway, I will reveal some of the dialects that have claims to be languages too. I'm doing this from the smallest to the biggest in terms of numbers, and without further ado, let's go. Norn. Geography. It's found in the Orkney Islands and the Shetland Islands. Number of native speakers, 0. Number of second language speakers, not many. Language group, Scandinavian. It is closely related to Norwegian and Faroese. Status, extinct since 1850, but some say it continued being spoken till the 1930s. The language is related to Old Norse. That's the language of the Vikings who settled all over England, especially in the east. Some Norn still exists in some vocabulary in the Shetland and Orkney dialect, as well as some place names. There's even some writing in Norn that survives, including the Lord's Prayer. And the motto of Shetland is, well, I can't read that, but in English it's, "With law shall land be built," and that's in Norn. Orkney and Shetland remained under Norwegian sovereignty until 1468-69. They were only ceded to Scotland because King Christian I of Norway's daughter married James III of Scotland. Christian pledged the islands as security for the dowry payment, but when he failed to pay the full amount of the dowry, Scotland kept them. Recently, there have been attempts to revive Norn, which is why it appears on this list, even though it's only met with limited success. The modern version of Norn is called Ninorn. This is what it sounds like.
Halst, hur finner du? Påby, där. Feder, that. Mor, mum. Murder, mothers.
Cornish. Spoken in Cornwall. The number of native speakers, a small number. Number of speakers of Cornish as a second language, well, according to the 2021 England and Wales census, 563 people identified Cornish as their main language, which is quite an achievement for what had been a dead language only a few years prior, although of course that's still much less than in days gone by. Before the Black Death of 1348, there may have been around 38,000 speakers. The language group is Celtic, closely related to Welsh and Breton, spoken in northwest France. It's part of the Brittonic subgroup of Celtic languages. What about its status? Well, it had become extinct in 1750, but there has been a revival in the last few years. So what does it sound like? This is Michael from the Level Up English podcast and a student of Cornish. He made a fascinating video about the Cornish language. Here's a clip and I'll put a link to it in the description if you want to see the whole thing.
Hello in Cornish is difta. Difta. Literally this means day good. Fatla genochwi. Fatla genochwi. This is kind of like how's it going? Mraz. Thank you. O femblof yw now warn ugans mis genver.
Gerrier and Guernesier. Where are they found? The Channel Islands. Number of native speakers. Together they have about 500 native speakers, of whom about 100 speak it as their everyday language. Guernesier, 50 to 100 fluent speakers, with most being over 80. Number of second language speakers of these languages, according to the 2021 census, 2,874. What's their language group? Well, they're closely related to French, and in particular the Norman dialect of French. So it's a Latin language. Their status, critically endangered. What does it sound like? This is Guernesier. If you know some French, I'm sure you'll understand it.
Bonjour, comment tu l'affaire va?
Anima bio, merci. Pas trop mal. Et de vous?
Ah, anima bien, merci. Ça vaut le Guernesier.
Pas gravement, mais je voudrais la prod.
Vous pouvez le faire d'offner.
Ah, v'là qui va.
À la prochaine.
À la prochaine.
Next, let's move on to the Manx language. Where is it spoken? On the Isle of Man. Number of native speakers is 24. Numbers of speakers of it as a second language, 2,874. The language group is Celtic, the Goidelic branch. So that's related to Scottish Gaelic and Irish, as we'll see later. Status, definitely endangered. Manx became an extinct language when the last native speaker died in 1974. But since then, it has been revived and is now taught in schools across the island. What does it sound like?
Well, Kistow, Hayley.
Oh, Tammy Brow.
Oh, Yindersa.
As Kistow.
Tammy Meidel Ewer Guramaid. As Hayley, quite sure.
Oh, sure, Rigori.
Oh, Rigori. Yindersa. As quite sure.
Oh, sure, Mananin.
Mananin. Yindersa. As quite sure.
Sure, Joni.
Joni. Yindersa.
Next, Irish. This is where it's spoken in Northern Ireland. The number of native speakers in Northern Ireland is about 6,000 people who use it as their main language at home, and a further 71,900 claim to speak it. And this is just in Northern Ireland, remember. In the Republic of Ireland, there are about 150,000 who speak it fluently. Language group. Another Celtic language from the Goidelic branch. UNESCO classifies it as endangered. It sounds like this.
Dia Gwich. Dia Gwich. Literally means God be with you. Dia Gwich. The reply to this is Dia is Mwera Gwich. Dia is Mwera Gwich. Literally, God and Mary, the mother of Jesus, be with you. It's very nice. If you want to say my name is, so my name is Matthew, is Matthew is Anam Dum. Matthew is Anam Dum. Matthew is my name.
Next, Scottish Gaelic. Where is it spoken? Or here, mostly in the Western Islands and in the northwestern Highlands of Scotland. Number of fluent speakers is about 70,000. About 20,000 of them are native speakers. But the number of speakers has increased since 2012. Language group is Celtic of the Goidelic branch. But did you know that if you come to Britain as an immigrant, you don't need to speak English to apply for British citizenship? You need to prove you understand either English, Welsh, or Scottish Gaelic. Anyone will do. Useful information, perhaps. This is what it sounds like.
Gynti yn bod studi joch na berig at the chwr machynnu. Mysyr i'r chwr marsyn.
Hashan ma. As a school, hoolish in Morum and the Fortic and the Jay Holotter. A Charocus Emriad na Gale Gal of Giroch Bacon is keep bleeding a rash.
Well, Chajakiets in the Churas and Tayan like Uachgerin. By Bochgein is Keen Horriman who got us in the Koirsnach and Akal.
Next, Welsh. It's spoken here, in these areas. Number of speakers. 538,300 people in Wales said that they spoke Welsh at home according to the 2021 census, and that's 17.8% of the Welsh population of 3,150,000, and an additional 110,000 people in England had Welsh as their first language. Language group. It's Celtic, the Brittonic branch. Note Welsh is the Celtic language in the least danger of extinction. It sounds like this.
Neu os da chi eisiau gofyn am wneud rhywbeth, enghraifft, ga I ofyn cwestiwn, neu ga I eistedd yn fanna, sa ti'n mynd I mewn I caffi, sut fas ti'n archebu panad o de?
Panad o de. Hei, ga I panad o de, sgwch yma?
Ga I bot o Darjeeling, os gwelwch yn dda.
Next, Scots. It's spoken here in Scotland and also here in some parts of Northern Ireland. Number of native speakers. According to the Scottish census of 2022, over 1.5 million people in Scotland reported being able to speak Scots out of a total Scottish population of 5.5 million. Language group is Germanic on the Anglo-Frisian branch. Current status: the language is classified as vulnerable by UNESCO. Scots is a language that split off from the Anglo-Saxon spoken in England about 1,000 years ago. So do not confuse it with English spoken with a Scottish accent. Of course they are related, but it's not the same thing. Scots has a number of dialects: Central, Southern, Northern Scots, also known as Doric, Insular Scots, spoken in Shetland and Orkney, and Ulster Scots, spoken in Northern Ireland. Doric is sometimes referred to as Scotland's fourth language. It has its own body of literature and is so different from other forms of Scots that some consider it a separate language.
For the epic poem is wearing a short shirt. That's what got just Dom's attention, gets him a bit frothy about the moo and excited. But anyway, so a sark is your shirt.
In 2023, a retired solicitor completed the translation of the entire Bible into Doric, which had taken him 17 years. Shetlandic too has a claim to be a language in its own right, probably because of the Norn influence and unique accent.
And the day's lovely and dry and even sunny between the clouds, and the morning is to be rainy as well. So that's like a day between weathers where you've got a better day between horrible days. An
interesting Shetland word is canapping, which means toning down your Shetland accent so that outsiders can understand. And a shout out to Jack from the Scottish Highlands for helping me with this section on the Scots language.
Without doubt, it is a Germanic lead at its heart and is maist sib to English. Forby, it carries with it all the wealth hearst it frae the money threeds o' leads and folk at Scotland has broke together over the ages.
And now the moment you've been waiting for. The number one language in the United Kingdom is, drumroll, English. Where is it spoken? Here and a lot of other places. Number of native speakers, according to the census, 91.1% or 52.6 million people had English as their main language in England and Wales. Language group, Germanic on the Anglo-Frisian branch. What does it sound like? Well, I'm speaking it now. Now, there are a number of dialects across England that are sufficiently different from standard southern British English that they may someday be classified as a language. These include Scots.
Come ahead then. And we did a little bit of messing about, and then he went, right, you've got a job, you start on Monday.
Geordie.
Lastly is yem, which means home. So if you were going home, you could say, I'm going yem.
And Cockney.
To meet Beyonce a couple of times, which the first time I really held it together, I was like, thanks for having me to show B, you know, rah, rah, rah. But the thing is, I was in her dressing room and I was like, there was only a little curtain separating us while she was having her makeup done, and I started like going, I don't think I can do it.
There are others. If I've left out your dialect, then do mention it in the comments. Well done, English. But what about immigrant languages? Let's count down from 5 to 1. See if you can guess the number one. In fifth position is Portuguese with 224,719 people. Urdu, 269,849. Punjabi, 290,745. In second place, it's Romanian with 471,954. And the most spoken immigrant language in the United Kingdom is, yeah, another drum roll, Polish, with 611,845 people, or 1.1% of the population. Where are these concentrated? Well, in Slough, Polish is the main language of 5.68% of the inhabitants. In the London borough of Harrow, 21,100 or 8.1% of the population were born in Romania. From Harrow to goodbye. That's a brief look at our multilingual nation. If you're interested in the history of the English language, then do sign up to my newsletter, The Rambler. It's free, link in the description, or become a Patreon for much, much more.